Today, we're going to talk about a very important, clinically as well as theoretically, it is very important neurological condition which is known as epilepsy. Now, how do we define this epileptic conditions, or what is the underlying pathophysiology behind the patients who are suffering from epilepsy? Epilepsy is basically the abnormal excessive neuronal discharge that is happening in the patient, and that is resulting either in the seizural activity, either the patient suffers from seizures, or either it can be an abnormal behavior on the patient's end. Either it can be the abnormal sensations that the patient is experiencing. For instance, it can be the auditory hallucinations. It can be even the tactile hallucinations in a lot of patients. And sometimes the patient has a state of aura and suffers from this typical state in which he or she sees flashes of light around him or her. So this is the normal symptomatology that the patient is suffering from. A lot of patients would even report to you with loss of consciousness, and this is sometimes a very primary symptom that is seen in the patient. As we even saw in our case study that the patient who was basically 27 years of age, and she suffered from this seizural activity at the age of 7. So this is almost a time duration of 20 years in which she suffered from seizures on and off. So it is again very important to distinguish between the epilepsy and, on the other hand, between just a single isolated seizure. You cannot always say that the patient is suffering from epilepsy if she or he has suffered from a seizural activity. Almost 5% of the population suffers from seizures at one point in time, but if it is an isolated seizure, we won't label or diagnose the patient to be suffering from epilepsy. So it's again very important that the patient meets the diagnostic criteria at this level. Now, what are you going to do as a clinician and as a physician? How are you going to diagnose that either the patient is suffering from epilepsy, or either he or she has just an isolated seizure attack? If it is needed, you're going to perform the investigations in this particular patient. If it was some sort of a condition which was life-threatening in this scenario, you're going to perform the baseline investigations, of course, and then you can even go through the radiological imaging, that is the PET scanning techniques, or even the CT scans and the MRIs can be prescribed to the patient. And upon that, we're going to observe that either the patient is suffering from an underlying pathology or not. So as I'm emphasizing again and again on the fact that it should be a repeated seizural activity whenever we are going to diagnose that this particular patient is suffering from epilepsy, it's very important to mention the fact that what was the duration of the seizure? Were there any triggering factors in the environment or not? It can be the photophobia, it can be the phonophobia that is observed in the particular individual. So all of these triggering factors have to be observed whenever this paroxysmal abnormal CNS activity, neuronal activity is seen in the individual. This outburst has to be basically highlighted over here, that what basically caused the neuronal outburst in the particular individual. Now, there are a lot of causative factors, or there are a lot of pathologies that may be present in the particular individual. It can be the infectious states, for instance, the meningitis, or it can be the encephalitis. Or on the other hand, the patient can also suffer from some sort of drug interactions. So it's again very important that you focus on the history whenever you have this particular patient of yours, and you're just focusing what is the particular age group that the patient belongs to. what is the occupation of the individual, what can be the triggering factors in the environment that can cause the seizural activity in the particular individual. On the other hand, genetics also play a very vital role when basically a lot of research has been carried out in this particular instance, that what is the role of genetics in the triggering of the epileptic seizural activity in the individuals. So we must go through the family history in detail as well over here. And that is going to highlight whether the patient has got any sibling or either of the parents can also suffer from these epileptic seizures. So it's again very important that you take the family history in detail over here. The past history is going to highlight also a lot of factors. For instance, the juvenile epilepsy or the epilepsy of the childhood is sometimes seen, and that is sometimes mostly associated with the child trauma, the birth trauma that the child has undergone. And a lot of patients, a lot of children basically who went through the birth trauma resulted in an epileptic seizure in the near future. So it's very important to highlight the child history, the birth history, whenever you have the juvenile kind of seizure activity that is seen in the individuals. So these are the basic points that we're going to focus on whenever we have these children at our hand and when we are taking the history in detail. Infectious states are going to be highlighted. Any past surgical or medical history of any kind has to be documented in detail in this particular individuals, and that is basically going to highlight the infectious states, the history of head trauma. That is the major factor over here that can contribute towards the development of epilepsy in the individuals. Then any sort of history which is basically relating to the tumorous conditions and the neoplastic conditions may also contribute towards the development of the epileptic seizures in the individual. So you're going to highlight all of these factors in the history taking and then move on to the clinical examination in these particular individuals.